Fantastic. Okay, welcome to the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, members, staff, and guests. We ask for your patience during this virtual meeting. Multiple staff members are behind the scenes to make sure all applicants and citizens are able to communicate with the board at the appropriate times.
Board members and applicants are participating via Zoom. Some are using video and all are using audio. I'll unmute applicants when their cases are called. Everyone, please be aware of your audio and just be mindful of anything in your background to eliminate distractions. The public can participate in a few different ways. So they can watch via City TV. They can send in emails, written statements. They can call in on the phone or log into publicinput.com and stream it that way. So the YouTube link is here. It is youtube.com/user/ColumbiaSC-government. So in that link, if you go to the main city website, that link is streaming at the top of the website page as well. Email during the meeting while we're discussing cases up until the time we go into board discussion. You can send in written statements via cocboardmeeting@columbiasc.gov. Just please keep in mind that those who call in are only given 3 minutes to speak. So keep your written statements at about what would be 3 minutes read out loud as a limit as well. Phone, you can call in at 1-855-925-2801. When prompted, you'll enter the meeting code 9253. So, and when you're on the phone, you can hit *1, which will just allow you to listen to the audio. If you're unable to stay on the line, you can hit *2 and record a voice message. It'll give you 3 minutes to record. Please make sure to speak clearly and leave your name and case information. And once your case is called, you can hit *3 and that'll place you in a queue to speak live when prompted. Just make sure to wait until your case is called because we're unable to really tell which case each individual is calling for. So to make sure that we select you for the right case, just hold off till I introduce that property. So, and you can hit any of those options at any time during the call as well. You can also stream the meeting at publicinput.com/COCBOZA-July. We did have a typo on our final agenda. That'll take you to the June page. We have put a link on that page to take you where you need to go. So it'll direct you, it'll autocorrect and get you where you need to go, even if you press the link that was on the agenda. So, and if you're participating by phone while streaming the meeting, please mute your computer audio so that we don't have feedback. It can cause audio issues on this end with what's being patched into Zoom. So just make sure, just have the phone audio and mute your computer. There's also an audio delay between Zoom and City TV and public input. So if you see us pausing for a minute, it's to let the other ones catch up. And I'll go ahead and call roll really fast. Mr. Dinkins?
Here.
Mr. Primus?
Here.
Mr. Speed?
Here.
Miss Stevens?
Here.
Mr. Schaefer?
Here.
Mr. Gregory?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, applicants with requests before the Board of Zoning Appeals are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to, an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time limit does not include any questions asked by the Board of Zoning Appeals or staff regarding requests. Any member of the general public may address the board in intervals of 3 minutes or 5 minutes if by a spokesperson for an established body or for a group of 3 or more. The applicant will then have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The board reserves the right to amend these procedures on a case-by-case basis.
The board uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. If a member of the board or the general public wishes to discuss an item that's on the consent agenda, that item is removed and then placed on regular. The board then approves the remaining consent agenda items in bulk. So we'll review the consent agenda. The first matter is the approval of the June 4th, 2020 board minutes. Case number 2020-0029, a special exception at 2604 Divine Street to permit miscellaneous personal services. It is a spa and hair removal service. Case 2020-0032, a special exception at 1500 Hallbrook Drive. This is a special exception to expand an existing elementary and secondary school. Case 2020-0033, a variance at 1500 Hallbrook Drive. This is a variance in off-street parking requirements for an elementary and secondary school. In case 2020-0034, a special exception at 5490 Forest Drive. This is a special exception to establish a drive-through facility, an automatic car wash, and general commercial. And I believe that is all that's on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you very much, Rachel. Do any members of the board or anyone from the public wish to have any items removed from the consent agenda prior to the board vote?
All right, so we'll take a pause to let that catch up. Erica, just let us know when you can hear us. Erica, can you hear us?
Yes, Erica Sunnaseth. Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Oh,
thank
no, no, sorry.
Okay.
Erica Hyen.
you. Okay.
Sorry. City of Columbia, Erica, can you hear me?
I hear you. I don't see anyone who wishes to speak.
All right. Do you see any emails that have popped in?
What's the comment? No, there's nothing.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, all right, well, good. Well, I would like to ask for a motion then for approval of the consent agenda, please.
I move that we approve the items on the consent agenda relative to all staff comments and conditions.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
All right.
Let's-
I think,
Let's do that one more time. I think I got ahead of Josh just a little bit, if that was Josh.
if easier, I can call roll. And
Why don't
just
we do that? Why don't you call roll?
Yeah, because with the audio, sometimes there's delays.
Certainly.
All right. So Mr. Dinkins,
Aye.
Mr. Primus,
Aye.
Mr. Speed,
Aye.
Ms. Stevens,
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer,
Aye.
Mr. Gregory.
I saw his mouth move, but
Aye.
There we go. Okay.
Aye, sorry.
Motion passes. All right, and for the applicants that are on here that had items on the consent agenda, That has been voted on and approved. You all are welcome to go ahead and log off. You don't have to stay on for the entire meeting now that your cases have been resolved. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the regular agenda. So we will use the following outline for the regular agenda items. Staff will introduce the case. Applicant will have the 10 minutes to make a presentation, including any attorneys or agents on their behalf. The board may ask questions at any time during that presentation. The public will be allowed to participate via email, voicemail, or phone comment. There is also an option on the public input for the public to leave short comments on the input page for staff to read in. If you are using that comment system, please make sure to put your name and what case. In previous months, it kind of became like a chat room, and that's not what that is meant for. So just make sure to have your comments read into the record. We need your name and what case you are commenting on. And then the applicant will be given time for rebuttal, and then we'll go into board discussion and action by board. So the first item on the regular agenda is case 2020-0030. It is a special exception for a plus or minus 1.9 acre portion of Fort Jackson Boulevard, a portion of tax map number 166503-05-04. Again, a special exception to establish a gasoline service station and a convenience store. And I believe Miss Stevens was going to recuse herself from this matter.
I am. Can I say something real quick, Rachel?
Sure.
This property is owned by Kirkman Finley, and although I believe I could be objective in this matter, I think that my friendship and my very public support of Mr. Finley's general election opponent could cause a neutral observer to reasonably question whether I could be fair to the applicant. So I'm going to take myself off video.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Stevens. All right. And I believe the applicants are on the line. They're welcome to unmute themselves, and I will start their 10 minutes as soon as they introduce themselves and get going.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Paulette.
Hey there, Rachel. Well, good afternoon. My name is Paulette Morin, and I'm a real estate project manager for Quick Trip. In case you haven't had the opportunity to stop into one of our stores in the upstate or in Charlotte, I thought I'd give you a brief rundown of who we are, since we don't have any stores in Columbia yet. Quick Trip is a privately held company by the Cadjo family, who started the company back in 1958. We are headquartered in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we have 11 markets throughout the United States. We moved into the upstate back in 2011 and are finally moving into the Columbia market with a few stores opening at the end of the year. We've heard from our consumers for a while that they want us to be here, and we're really excited to come into the market. So we offer clean, safe stores with fast, friendly customer service. And probably the best thing about our company is that we offer opportunities for our employees to grow and succeed and promote from within. I actually started out in our stores 14 years ago as a part-time clerk, and here I am on the real estate side. So we've been working diligently on this project on Fort Jackson Boulevard for several months with staff as well as SCDOT. As part of the Good Neighbor Plan requirements for the special exception, we reached out to the neighborhoods nearby for feedback. Out of the 4 neighborhoods contacted, we've only heard from Kings Grant, which is located on the east side of I-77. As you may know, Kings Grant's only concern about our project are traffic issues that they believe exist on Fort Jackson Boulevard and their desire for a signal at our access. Prior to applying for the special exception permit, we conducted a signal warrant study with SCDOT. Through that study, SCDOT determined that our project would not allow for a signal to be installed at this time. When it was time to perform a traditional traffic study, COVID hit and traffic was non-existent. In lieu of performing a traditional study, which is not a viable option for the foreseeable future, SCDOT determined what mitigations would be expected of Quick Trip, which we have gladly agreed to. I've also invited Tyler Clark, the head district permit engineer for SCDOT in District 1, to help translate how we got to where we are and, set the record straight on what the expectations of Quick Trip is. And I'm here to answer any questions that the staff or neighbors may have. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
I have a quick question for you, Paulette. You mentioned that Quick Trips has agreed to work with the DOT and with the mitigations the DOT proposes. You mentioned sounds like those have already been thought out and decided. Could you tell us what some of those are, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Rachel, is there a chance that you can flip through the application to get to the site plan? I think that may be easier for us to look at it and talk about it, if you don't mind. Thank you so much.
Of course.
So as you're looking at the plan right now, on the bottom of the page is Fort Jackson Boulevard. And so what we've agreed to do is to provide a right turn lane into the site for drivers that are the eastbound headed towards I-77. And it'll give them an opportunity to pull off of Fort Jackson's through lanes into the site. We've also agreed to cut back. There's an existing median out on Fort Jackson Boulevard. We're going to cut that back a bit so that customers that are taking a left out of our site have an opportunity to stop in that suicide lane before they continue on westbound on Fort Jackson Boulevard. And then also, we're going to improve the striping that's out on Fort Jackson Boulevard. And basically, through all of these mitigations, we're setting it up so that in the future, if and when the development happens behind us on the rest of the parcel, because this is a very large parcel that we're taking a portion of for our lease, develop, that they can easily slide a signal into that if and when it's warranted and agreed upon by SCDOT.
Okay, very good. Sounds like you've thought about it and had some discussion, so very good. How many Quick Trips are located in the upstate?
We have roughly 50 stores in the upstate. Closer to 50. Between the upstate and the Charlotte area, we just hit 87 stores a few weeks ago. So.
Okay, good. Any other members of the board have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, Rachel, maybe you can clarify as well, but the special exceptions Quick Trip is seeking, it looks like from their application, that's just one of three things. They got to do the zoning map amendment. I guess for the looking at that plan, it looks like some of it was commercial, some of it was RS1 maybe.
They have done the rezoning. So
Okay.
Some of our maps, it just finished. So they
Okay.
just got second reading, but they have rezoned the portion. They did a rezoning for, I think it was approximately 2.66 acres to include the parcel with the Quick Trip as well as the drive aisle that is shown on the site plan. That is
Okay.
now C3 so that it no longer has the residential touching it. So the residential continues on behind it. So they rezoned, that is completed. So
Okay.
this project is not large enough to trigger planning commission site plan review.
Okay. Are there any next steps after, is this special exception holding anything else up in the design permittal process?
They have to get this before they can really submit for any permits.
Okay.
So yeah, no land disturbance or any kind of permit has been issued yet.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how about any other board members before we move on? I would like to ask Paulette a couple more questions, but I'd like to give some of our other members a chance. George, do you have anything? Marcellus, anything?
Go ahead, Gene.
Okay, Paulette, I think your application is very thorough and put together well and explains the reasons why you all think that you can meet the specific criteria to grant the special exception. But your presentation was a little brief, which is good, and that's fine. But could we get you to please, are you familiar with the 8, I'm sure you are, the 8 criteria that we're asked to look at in order to grant the special exception? Are you familiar with those that are in the packet?
Sorry about that. I was trying to find the unmute button. I am. Let me go ahead and pull it up and make sure I'm looking at exactly what you're looking at in the packet.
Thank you, because although they're in the packet, we would like to get those aired here at the meeting to get them on the record. So if I could just get you to briefly run through the 8 specific criteria that are in the packet, because those are the criteria that we are asked to judge and to vote on. So if you could run through those when you get a chance, please, that would be appreciated.
And Paulette, that's page 3. It starts on page 3 of the application that's in the packet.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Paulette, you can certainly abbreviate the questions, starting with, I'll start with the first one. Describe in which ways the proposed special exception will not have a substantial adverse impact on vehicular traffic or pedestrian safety, etc. That's certainly fine. More interested in your responses than word for word the questions.
Absolutely. So the first one, like you mentioned, was whether or not we believe we would have a substantial adverse impact on vehicular traffic or vehicular and pedestrian safety. And so I think we definitely covered that by speaking through the mitigations that we've agreed upon with SCDOT. There also is an existing sidewalk in front of the site that if for some reason we disturb that by putting in the right turn deceleration lane, we would certainly replace.
Okay. Second question would be, describe in what ways the proposed special exception would not have a substantial adverse impact on any adjoining properties with regards to environmental factors. Noise, light,
the nearest property to us would be the condos to the west of the site. And we are separated from the condos by the access road that you see there on the site plan. Sorry, thank you so much.
Sorry.
So, thank you. We are quite a bit set off from the neighborhood, which would allow for us to be able to direct our lighting in towards the site and keep that within our property lines. We also, it mentions the apologies. Litter. We do perform, we have 3 separate shifts throughout the day where our assistant managers turn over. And as part of those duties, they have to do a thorough walk of the inside and the outside of the store to make sure that it is clean and ready to go. And part of those duties include picking up trash within our lot, as well as the surrounding right of way and that access road that you see right there. And we also pride ourselves on the appearance of our stores. So on top of the 3 times that it's picked up during the day, we send our part-time clerks outside to pick that up as well.
Very good. Describe in what ways the proposed special exception would not have a substantial adverse impact on the aesthetic character of the area.
So we are located right here at a commercial corridor, which is why we believe that our store, coincides with the area, because that is most of the parcel was already zoned C3. And we also are only proposing a 5,000 square foot store with 8 fuel pumps, which we believe is a pretty small project. I think Rachel mentioned it earlier that we haven't even, spilled over into needing to receive planning commission approval because it is such a small project. So we've squeezed in tight on that small parcel. Additionally, I think we included elevations of the store as well as the canopy. We pride ourselves on the appearance of our stores. Very, very clean. Thank you very much. Easy to see, well lit, so very inviting to our customers.
Okay, explain how the proposed special exception, the granting of it, that is, would not have an adverse impact on public safety or create a nuisance conditions detrimental to the public and result in increased law enforcement response?
So all of our stores are actually equipped with a military-grade security system. We have an IT department that is based out of our corporate office in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that monitors every inch of the inside of our stores, with the exception of the restrooms, as well as the outside of our stores 24/7. And it's crystal clear. They can hear and see everything that's going on. We also provide our employees with measures throughout the store, as well as buttons that they can clip to their belts that allow them to alert our IT department if for some reason something was going on that was suspicious throughout our stores. And by alerting our IT department in Tulsa, we have a direct connection to be able to alert local authorities if for some reason we need them. But again, like I mentioned earlier, we do pride ourselves on being a very safe, convenient store. We're also a member of what is called Safe Place, where we partner with local organizations, and it allows anyone that feels that they're in an unsafe situation to come to any of our stores and let one of our employees know, and they're trained to get assistance for that person and provide them with whatever they need until assistance is there. So it's honestly one of the safest jobs I've ever had. So.
And just as a side note, Paulette, I will add that's an impressive response. We've looked at a lot of these in the past, and I've never heard of a military-grade security system monitored to that level. So that's impressive. But
come over and check it out after we open.
That's pretty good. But moving on, with the establishment of this proposed Quick Trip, would it create a concentration or proliferation of similar type stores in the area?
So we would be the only gas station / convenience store located right here at the highway interchange, which is why we chose this location.
Okay, yeah. Enough. Okay, please describe how the proposed special exception is consistent with the character and intent of the underlying district as indicated in the zoning district description, with any applicable zoning overlay district goals and requirements.
So Quick Trip is both a retail and a service establishment, and that business model thrives on major traffic arteries, which obviously Fort Jackson Boulevard is. And so we pull from existing traffic as a pass-by impulse trip. Also, the future land use for this parcel, I believe, was going to be a commercial corridor, if I can remember from discussions with Rachel in our pre-submittal meeting. So.
Okay, this next one, you pretty much answered it in your last answer, but I need to ask it anyway. Describe how the proposed special exception is appropriate for its location and compatible with the permitted uses adjacent to and in the vicinity of the property.
So again, adjacent to Quick Trip on the west side of the property is going to be an access road, which will separate us from the residential uses. We abut the interstate, which is a natural place for a C-store, and it's compatible with our transportation-oriented use.
Okay. And lastly, explain in what ways the proposed special exception would not adversely affect the public interest.
The Quick Trip has committed to the good neighbor plan that we've provided all of the neighborhoods that are nearby with, as well as staff, and we're committed to sticking with that. It was honestly fairly easy to comply with since it pretty much is outlined with what we pride ourselves on, because we know that the neighbors nearby are going to be our #1 customers. So we want them to be happy for sure.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for answering those for us. I guess I'd like to ask one more time, do any members of the board have any other questions for the applicant before we give the general public a chance?
So can you talk a little bit about the operational hours of a typical QT?
Absolutely. So we're a 24/7 use. We cater not only to those of us that work the traditional 9 to 5, but we also respect that there are law enforcement officers and, those that work in the hospitals on the overnights that just need a quick place to grab a drink or a snack or their breakfast on the way to work. I will note, though, that even though we are a 24/7 use, all of our deliveries and whatnot, fuel deliveries, as well as, the deliveries for the goods for the store, those are during regular business hours.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is that it from the board as far as questions for the applicant?
Hey, Gene, I got one more question just to confirm, and I think I can see it from the site plan, but the only access is via that shared road, right? Correct? Just to the west of it?
That is correct. Almost immediately where the end of the access road is, to the east curb line of the access road is almost where the controlled access actually starts for the rest of that parcel. So that is the only access we will get off of Fort Jackson Boulevard.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, that's it from questions from the board. Rachel, do we have some members of the public that would like to ask questions or going to read some letters?
I have one letter right now,
Okay.
not 50 letters like last
Okay.
time. All right, this is from, and I forwarded you all ahead of time the letter we received from King's Grant, as well as from, there was another one I forwarded you. Let me see here. From Dr. Lauterbach and Alexandra, Julia, and Dr. Lauterbach. That letter and then the letter from King's Grant were provided to you. So I'll go ahead and read the letter. Erica said she only has one speaker on the line right now, so we'll see if anyone else calls in while I'm reading. And just to remind people, if you wish to speak to the board before we go into board discussion, now is the time to hit *3 on your phone so that we can see that you're in queue to speak. So this email is from Edmund Malcomian. So I apologize if I butchered your name. I joined the meeting today. I'm at 92 Somerton Place, Kings Grant. I'd like to let you know that this is a residential area and putting a gas station is not really convenient. There's quite a bit of traffic going on here with the entrance to the fort, and having a gas station in this location is not convenient. So I like to oppose this motion. He also sent a follow-up saying the board needs to make sure the study is done after COVID has died down for a valid SE-DOT analysis, and that the time frame of a DOT analysis COVID era is not relevant. This area last year and prior years was very busy in the mornings and during commute times. So Erica, do you have anyone on the line to speak?
I do. I have one speaker.
Okay, if you want to patch them through.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Charlie Terrani. I'm a resident of Kings Grant at 483 North Kings Grant Drive. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'd like to also thank Quick Trip for communicating with the neighborhood and being willing to engage in a dialogue. You have in front of you in a packet in the letter from Kings Grant that was mentioned a well-documented history of traffic problems on Fort Jackson Boulevard, which unfortunately we don't feel have been addressed at this point in the application before you. Residents have told you about numerous collisions, 60 in the past 5 years, about traffic that backs up on I-77 going north to Blythewood in the afternoon commute, when a majority of the accidents have happened because of a failure to yield. They've also told you of backups for shift changes, all this causing problems primarily with left-hand turns. I've also understood from a conversation with Mr. Clark, and I'm glad he's with you today, that Quick Trip is going to have to submit a traffic study to the SCDOT. You don't have that traffic study in front of you, so you don't have the traffic counts, and you don't really have a comprehensive picture of the traffic impact of this project. What you do know is that the traffic that the plan has no traffic signal. They didn't find a traffic warrant for the plan. That you're going to have virtually unrestricted left-hand turns in and out of the project at the same time and in the same location where traffic backs up on Forest Drive in front of this project site. So the very complaints that the some 20 neighbors told you about in Mr. Mullenkamp's submission are unaddressed in this project. Respectfully, I don't think an aptly named suicide lane does the trick. Now, what I would suggest is that you not vote on this. This application is not complete. Traffic studies can be conducted in the COVID era, either through adjusted traffic numbers based on historical data or through a study of actual traffic with an adjustment up. I saw you considered a convenience store last April. They came to you with an FCDOT traffic study. Why is there not one here? This development is going to set the tone for what's to come on Fort Jackson Boulevard. What you do here matters a lot. And I think you ought to take great care with how you proceed with this application. Personally, I don't think it's timely, but if the applicant insists on a vote, I think it must be denied on the basis of harm to pedestrian and vehicular safety. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Erica, do we have anybody else on the line?
I do. I'll put them on now.
All right.
Okay. Hi, my name is Warren Mortera. I'm a resident of Kings Grant. And I just want to mention several things to you that are concerning to me about the Quick Trip submission. As I leave, I've seen a lot of traffic. In the mornings you got, before Jackson, you got morning traffic, incoming traffic, afternoon outgoing traffic. And in the afternoons, the downtown traffic comes from down Fort Jackson Boulevard going eastbound to get on 77, most of it going to the north. If you ever watch the traffic there, it's like a racetrack. People will cut, they'll go in the center lane and move over the left lane and cut in front of other people that are in line. It's very dangerous. That's a very dangerous intersection. I'm concerned about the no traffic study. That's very concerning to me. And my other few comments are there's a hill that rises right at the point of where the entrance to the Quick Trip is laid out to go. And you can see, but the visibility is cut down. You can't see a full car coming. You can see most of the car. So you have less visibility. So that left turn going from the interstate over up Jackson Boulevard towards the city, turn left, that's going to be a disaster. That's where the real race cars are going. I had an accident there several years ago. I was coming home to Kings Grant. I was in the correct lane, going the right speed, and a guy pulled in front of me with a Chrysler 300, and I hit him smack in the middle of his car. And thank God I got out. My airbags went off, and everything was good. But that thing rattled me and beat me up pretty good. Since that time, I have seen a number of accidents on that location. I feel bad for these folks because that's a suicide mission. The other thing that I wanted to mention was I don't see any positive to this thing. Add more traffic is only going to make a dangerous situation worse. And the last comment I've got is if you really want to see what's going on, listen to presentations is great, but you need to get boots on the ground. Go down there, see the hill. Go down there, get a policeman to sit in an unmarked car and measure how fast these guys are going. And watch how they cut in front of each other when they get in that left-hand lane to go north on 77. You will be shocked. And I recommend if the city is hurting for revenues, park a policeman down there. You can get tickets all day long. Anyway, that's my comment. And like I said, I've been in an accident. I've seen accidents. I've seen the wreckages. and I think it's a terrible idea. I have no problem with Quick Trip. I think it's a good company. I have no problem. The presentation was good, but this is not a good location. Let them reapply to another location. And for goodness sakes, let's get the traffic study done before we start jumping the gun here. Anyway, thank you very much.
Yes, I have 2 more speakers.
All right, go ahead.
Hey there, can you hear me all?
Yes, hello.
Hi, my name's Julie Nelson, and I live in the Kings Grant development. I've been here a little over a year, and in a matter of 1 year, after a perfect driving record, knock on wood, I was hit by an individual who's making a left-hand turn, who failed to yield when I had the right of way. I am really surprised at how in this particular area, people just don't follow the rules. The arrows, they have the right of way where they don't have the green arrow, yet they feel they have the right of way to go, even though you have the whole interstate traffic occurring, plus you have Kings Grant and Fort Jackson. I had over $25,000 worth of damage to my SUV, and I was fine, and the other lady's car is totaled. A couple of things I just like also to bring up. I'm personally really disappointed from the Kings Grant representatives. I don't think, and what I mean by that is, I don't think that people really are saying what they feel by the amount of people that are showing up. I know a letter was sent, but I really believe people in the community, and what I've learned in watching and listening and kind of being an outsider, is they really feel this is a done deal. So they're not making a big deal about it. And I think that's just wrong, and it's inaccurate, and it's unfortunate. Not really your problem, but I want to make you aware. I think that this showing up during the COVID process, I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but there's no traffic study. In fact, we were all quarantined, and I didn't even know this was occurring because I was told to shelter at home. And when I found out about it, I was like, what are they talking about? And there's these little yellow, white, red signs. I don't know, there's a sign of like 8.5 by 11, and I'm not supposed to leave my house, yet this is occurring. So I feel that the community was really given late notice. We found out, I think, the night before the last meeting. And I think that I really don't feel like we need another convenience center. I feel that zoning down here, and I'm just talking to you my perspective coming from another state, it doesn't really make any sense. And I think it's really your responsibility to kind of look at what you're doing and why you're doing it, and does it make sense? And is it the right area where you have residential and yes, we understand that we're between Fort Jackson and an interstate, but does it really make sense for the area when you have other convenience centers and literally a half a mile away? And I like the presentation Quick Trip gave, but to me, Quick Trip, Chase, whatever, doesn't really matter to me. It's gasoline and a convenience store. So, and there's plenty for me to go to within a short distance, and at exit 9 and at exit 12. So,
all right, that was the 3 minutes. So thank you for your public comment, Ms. Nelson. Erica, do we have another caller?
I have 2 more.
Okay.
Hello, guys. This is George Jameson. I'm also a resident of Kings Grant neighborhood. Sort of want to reiterate what the other folks said. I mean, it's the entrance to Fort Jackson and also Kings Grant. So, you know, early in the morning, especially during the school time and in the afternoon, I mean, there's lines of cars waiting to get in Fort Jackson, and then there's a line of cars trying to get out of Kings Grant. And you know, the more traffic that the Quick Mart or the Quick Trip will bring is, you know, would just cause more congestion. So, I mean, to me, it's a weird place to put a gas station at the entrance of a fort and the entrance, you know, for our neighborhood. And it doesn't look like enough study has been done to grant any type of permission. And like the previous lady said, I was just made aware of it not too long ago also. So there's a lot of people in our neighborhood that don't like the idea. So I just think you guys need to look at it more thoroughly before you make a decision. So that's all I have to say. It's George Jameson and Kings Grant and 9 Tommy Court. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel, could I break in 1 second? For the record, could you please tell us when was this site posted and was it posted in the proper amount of time before the meeting?
It was posted, let me look at the calendar. Sorry. It would have been posted. Hold on a second. I believe the legal ad ran on the 12th of June, so it was probably posted between the 10th to the 15th of June in that area, because we have to post at least 15 days prior to the meeting, which we did. And I do just want to note our signs are larger than 8.5 by 11 for BOZA, Planning Commission, and Zoning Public Hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. All right, Erica, did we have any other callers?
I have 2 callers.
Okay.
Hey, my name is Hope Comar, and I'm a resident of Kings Grant also. I just want to emphasize one particular thing that nobody's mentioned, that every vehicle leaving Kings Grant, Fort Jackson, exiting from either side of the interstate and heading towards Garner's Ferry Road, if they want to go to the Quick Trip, they will have to make the left-hand turn into that property. So that is 4 lanes of traffic that will be flowing in the same direction, and will all, if they choose to go to Quick Trip, will have to make a left-hand turn. So that will be in direct contrast to those people who are trying to go north on I-77, who will also be making a left-hand turn. And right now, my understanding is there's no additional light to handle all that left turn traffic. And I think the danger is just going to increase to those of us who have to travel that road frequently. Also, my understanding is there's no pedestrian crossing that's going to be added at this point. And there's an apartment complex. I'm not sure the number of residents over there, but I would feel very strongly that they'll be very attracted to walk over to the Quick Trip. And there is no crosswalk, no light, no nothing there. So I think pedestrians are going to be at great risk. So I think, agree with everybody else that a better or a traffic study needs to be done and submitted before this is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, technical difficulties. So I think we have another caller on the line. Hello. Okay, so he might have gone away. Erica, do we have anyone else on the line? Or any other comments?
There's nobody else on the line. We do have comments. I do believe some of the speakers left comments.
If they left their name and case number, read those into the record for us, please.
Okay, I will start with Mr. George Jameson left a couple comments. He states Kings Grant residents take the position that because of the severe traffic problems on Fort Jackson Boulevard, the Board of Zoning Appeals should not consider the application until it has a SCDOT approved traffic plan for vehicles and pedestrians to review. Also stated Kings Grant residents entrance is right across the street. Kings Grant takes the position that because of the severe traffic, I believe he repeated himself. The Board of Zoning Appeals should not consider the application until it has an SCDOT approved traffic plan. During school hours in the morning and afternoon, there's a ton of traffic heading into the fort and leaving our neighborhood. We often had law enforcement directing traffic. That's all from Mr. Jameson. And Mr. Edmund Malcolmian from 92 Somerton Place stated that he doesn't see the see a case for the quick trip establishing near Kings Grant. Mrs. Hope Komar, she agrees with Mr. Jameson, Kings Grant resident, and knows that without a revised traffic plan, accidents will increase, and there is already about one per month at this interchange. And that is all for the comments.
Okay.
I see.
All right, well, if there's no one else on the line or with comments, we will move back to the applicant for rebuttal, I suppose.
Thank you, Rachel. I was wondering if there's an opportunity for Tyler Clark with SCDOT to speak on behalf of SCDOT to help explain what the expectations of our project are and how we determined what the mitigations are that are expected. Is that something that we can do?
Sure, yeah, you all have 5 minutes for rebuttal. And any questions don't take away from that. So Tyler's welcome to speak during that time.
Okay, I will let Tyler speak and then I'll finish up with whatever time is left.
Okay.
Great. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, appreciate the opportunity. I'm Tyler Clark. I'm the District 1 Permit Engineer. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak and be involved with this meeting. I'm here to kind of provide an objective opinion based off of what's been presented to the department thus far on behalf of QT and Cypress Commercial. Hopefully I won't yield too much time. So first I'd like to address the neighborhood and let them know that we are in receipt of their request regarding the traffic concerns and that our district traffic office has been investigating those requests and hopefully will be offering a response to those as soon as they're able to properly analyze and present any potential solutions to the neighborhood. And second, I'd like to clarify the traffic impact study and its relation to QT. As a whole, we're considering this a master development, so a larger parcel that includes the blue outline that you have there, Rachel, as a master development, and QT is set to initialize or be a part of the first phase of that. So early on, we relayed to Cypress Commercial and QT that we expect that a master traffic impact study would be submitted that investigates the impacts of the master development, which would include the QT. So we have offered avenues for this to occur during the COVID era. We've got different strategies for applying growth factors and what have you. And we've worked through that with multiple developments thus far. With that said, we have worked with QT and numerous other C-store competitors and are very familiar with traffic patterns and related impacts of said C-stores. It is customary and typical for C-stores to not be viewed as traffic generators. Rather, they capture what are called pass-by trips, which basically means that traffic will enter the site and then leave, continuing on their original path. So it's seen as a zero-sum trip. QT is generally considered a C-store for these purposes. They have several layouts, which I'm sure Paulette could speak to, but this is definitely one of the smaller ones. As such, our familiarity with these types of projects being C-stores, we have a general idea of what types of mitigations would be warranted. In this case, we'd assume that a separate left turn and a right turn would be warranted by the QT alone. QT has offered to construct these without any traffic impact study or anything of that nature. And we feel that that is appropriate for the type of traffic that we would expect for this phase one being just QT alone. To clarify, we do expect a master traffic impact study would be submitted. That's non-negotiable. And it will investigate all traffic impacts to include QTs as a potential existing traffic pattern, depending on how this development continues on. We relayed that to Cypress Commercial and QT, and we do expect to develop a cooperative document, whether that's a memorandum of understanding or whatever, between the SCDOT, the City of Columbia, and Cypress Commercial. And that MOU will project expectations, traffic, and responsibilities of the master developer overall. So that's kind of the spiel that I have for that. I would invite anybody, members of the public, to please visit our website and submit any concerns or requests with anything you might have with the state highway system through our customer service portal. We have hundreds of requests a day that we deal with, and they get them to us within hours, and we start looking into it and definitely aim to provide a response within a day or two. So we take a lot of pride in doing that. I think we do a really good job. And ultimately, our goal is to protect you guys and everybody out there that's using the state highway system. And that's the paramount thing that we look at every day. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Tyler. And I'll go ahead and finish up with the last minute that we have, just to touch on a couple of comments that came out of the neighborhood. I do want to clarify that we met with staff on this project back on January 28th, which was prior to COVID. So there was no attempt on our part, to skirt the system and to avoid the the typical avenues that we would go through to determine what mitigations are expected of us through SCDOT. Also, we didn't just, I apologize. The other thing I wanted to touch on was we do have a contractual obligation that's limited on time, which is why we are continuing on through the process right now. So hanging on for who knows how long until COVID is over, unfortunately, is just not an opportunity for us on this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your response. We appreciate that. So Rachel, I'd like to ask, are there any more comments from the public? Have any come in during the rebuttal period?
Sorry, I was muted.
Yes.
I think one came in. I'll let Erica clarify. I think one unique comment came in. That wasn't a repeat. Is that correct, Erica?
Yes, we have two comments that need to be read.
Okay.
The first one is from Catherine Stewart, a Kings Grant resident. She states that it won't let her log into the phone system. She states this is a super dangerous area. My daughter had a wreck there last year. People are not paying attention, getting on and off the highway. This is a mistake, and we need to do an SCDOT traffic plan before the vote is considered. There have been at least 2 fatalities in this area that I personally know of. And the next comment's from a Charles Tarini. Why wouldn't this board want to see the master traffic impact study before voting on this application? And wouldn't we want to see how SCDOT responds to these concerns before a vote is taken? And I believe that is the last comment. Let me check. Yeah, that was the last comment.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Well, I think at this time we will close all testimony from the public, and I'd like to move into board discussion. I think we've had a good discussion today, both sides of the deal here. So I'd like to open it up to board members. Comments?
Yeah, Gene, I've got a question, and maybe I just didn't hear it from Tyler. Tyler, or can I ask a question, Gene, to Tyler?
Yes, yeah, and this, I think it would be helpful. He provided a very good testimony, so please.
Yeah, Tyler, if what's the schedule on getting that master traffic study? What's the next steps there?
So as far as the schedule, I'm not sure at this point. Cypress Commercial, again, as the master developer, is kind of on the hook for developing that study and that MOU. That is something that we expect. One of our trigger points that we look at when we look at developments and permitting any new connection or allowing a connection to grow is a change of use or change of traffic pattern. So if we were to say move forward, everything went swimmingly with the QT, no additional development would be allowed to occur from the department's perspective or from the city's perspective, provided we have that correspondence or that document in place. So I guess a lot of that kind of depends on how Cypress Commercial elects to move forward or when they intend to move forward with the remainder of their development.
So they are not required to do a traffic study just for QT, only if they're going to do a second use. Did I hear you correct?
Correct. And so as a part of what Paulette presented, they did a signal one analysis, which did include some version of a master plan for this larger development. So we have at least some initial take on what that master development may be and what those impacts could be. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way the zoning will work out or what the intended uses will be. So we would want to revisit that in general. And also, it did not investigate projections at the interchange or other potentially affected intersections. That's the main thing that we need to look at for the master study. But for now, again, as I presented, QT being a C-store, they're not generators. They're really absorbing pass-by trips. It's basically come in, go out very quickly, and we have a pretty good grasp on what those mitigations may be. And we feel comfortable in, I guess, absorbing that risk for we do dozens of these a month and have a really good idea of those impacts and how we can help mitigate and make everything safe for the traveling public. That answered your question. So as far as scheduling, again, I think a lot of that lies on Cypress Commercial to develop that and move forward. We feel pretty comfortable that the mitigations that QT has offered, i.e. essentially what we have projected ourselves based off of our knowledge, that those mitigations will be sufficient for just the QT. But beyond that, we could not confirm, and we will require a master traffic impact study, which would then absorb QT's potentially existing traffic at that time.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, how about others on the board? Comments?
Yeah, I'll make a couple comments. So first, I want to say that I'm a huge QT fan. I commute to Clemson, or I used to before COVID, 3 days a week, and stop and fill up my car 3 days a week at a QT, and a new one was built on my route, and I was thrilled to see it. What differentiates that one, or most of the QTs that I experience from this, is number one, its proximity and adjacency to primarily residential properties, number one. But the other, I'd like to just start with the criteria. So for me, I have an issue with criteria 1 and 2 relative to this case. I'm not convinced that this special exception will not have substantial adverse impact on vehicular traffic. I don't think there's evidence that shows us clearly that that would not happen. QT articulated that the reason that they like this site at this intersection of 77 is because there are no other convenience stores or gas stations here. What that says to me is that you have to anticipate that there are going to be a lot of cars coming off of 77 that don't normally do that, given what's currently there. And I know that that's been said that that is not considered to be a generator of traffic, but I don't agree with that. I think it will generate new traffic on Fort Jackson Boulevard that would normally not be getting off of I-77 under the existing conditions. The other issue I have, so for me, I would just say I don't have enough evidence to firmly say that it will not have a substantial adverse impact. And in addition, their response in the application says that they will comply with any required mitigations. Well, in my view, if a mitigation is required, it's acknowledgement of an adverse impact. So relative to criteria number 2, so I have a particular issue with adjacency, particularly to the to the west, the condominiums to the west. I mean, if you look at this overall parcel, what you would have to say without, that's pretty clear is that where they're locating the QT on the site is more proximate to residential than to the highway. So what that means relative to number 2 for me is that if I live on Myron Circle in one of those condominiums, there's a condominium building that literally the front door and all of the windows face where this QT is going to be built. So what that means is that if I live there and I own that condominium, instead of looking at a bunch of old growth trees, what I'm going to start to see 24 hours a day is a convenience store and gas station. And at night, a very well lit convenience store and gas station. And if I own that property, I would say that that has an adverse impact to the property that I own. So I am concerned relative to the adjacency to the residential component that's around this site. I wish that they were proposing a site that was to the east more and more proximate to the highway. I think I would, or further down that's closer to commercial development near Whole Foods. So personally for me, this application does not meet criteria 1 and 2.
George, I think you have some valid and fair points, but just as a quick rebuttal, I wanted to point out a couple of things, how I see it. You know, we're vetting the traffic situation, and I just want to point out again, I know you heard it because you mentioned it, but we had SCDOT's district engineer testify for the record that in the DOT department does not believe that this would result in an increased amount of traffic, because as he said, you get a lot of pass-by trips, meaning customers probably who are going to travel past the store on their way to Kings Grant and into the fort. So I know you heard that, but I just would like to bring that up as a rebuttal. And then secondly, I think, and I can't speak for QT, but I believe the reason for the location of the proposed store on the western portion of the site is because DOT does indeed have control of access as you move closer to the interstate, which is common for areas like this. So they're somewhat, I believe, again, not speaking for them, but I think their hands are somewhat tied in that it has to go close to the existing condominiums because that's where their existing access is, and they're not allowed to push it towards the interstate. But nevertheless, fair points. I certainly respect your opinion. Just wanted to throw out that as a rebuttal to you. But as far as
can we go back to the site plan? Is there any are there any landscaping buffers or anything like that in between, like on that road? I mean, is there any chance? I mean, to help alleviate some of those concerns with the.
Because it's the roadway, the driveway is a separate parcel from the actual Quick Trip. So, I mean, if the Quick Trip was right up against the condo and didn't have that separation of a road, there would be some buffering requirements that come into play. With just the road, I'm not 100% sure what the landscaping requirement would be. I don't think it would be as substantial if for just the driveway as it would be if the Quick Trip was actually up against it. So that separation of the road cuts down the buffer width. So, and
Okay.
I don't know if around other portions, I mean, they might have to buffer if they touch any portion of the residential that's on the large parcel that they're on, but up against the condo itself, having the road in between the parcel and that breaks out their requirement to have that 20 or 30 foot buffer width.
And forgive my ignorance, but it was my understanding that Myron Circle, that asphalt road going into the condominiums, is not going to be touched. This newly created shared road is solely on the parcel that Cypress is developing, correct?
Yes.
That's what it looks like from the site plan.
Yeah, it's entirely on that parcel, but it is not the same parcel as they're breaking it up into two different parcels. So you have the driveway, which will start kind of as the service way to if they develop at the rear of the parcel as well. And then Quick Trip is, I think, 1.8 acres or something like that. It's its own separate parcel off of that newly created drive.
Yeah, so I think and we don't have the survey of the condominiums in front of us, George, but I think some of those trees are going to remain based on the way the site plan, based on the site plan, because they'd be on the other people's property.
Thank you for your comments, John. How about the rest of the board as we continue to discuss this? I think we're having a good discussion. George, any follow-up? Marcellus, Josh?
It sounds like King's Grant is giving us a lot of input on the project. I think at the beginning, the applicant said that there were several other neighborhoods. Would it be possible to get the applicant to talk a little bit more about the efforts to talk to, get some input from the other neighborhoods?
I don't think we should do that, Marcellus. I respect your question, but we have moved past the question and answer, for the session for the applicant, and that was the purpose of it. Now we're in board discussion. So again, with all due respect,
no problem.
Let's don't go there with that.
I can speak to that just from my perspective. I know I heard from them that they reached out to a few of them and just never heard anything back. And that very well could have been staff. We try to keep up with the best contacts that we can for the different neighborhoods in the city. But sometimes when they change hands, we're not always updated. So I always like to give that disclaimer as well, that sometimes staff just has incorrect information, and that's why the applicants don't always hear back. But they were provided with surrounding neighborhood contacts, and they did reach out to all of them. They just did not hear back from all of them.
I certainly understand that, but it stands to reason if King's Grant the residents of King's Grant feel that they're being that this project will negatively impact traffic, it stands to reason that some of the others in that area will also. That's the only thing I was thinking about, but I certainly understand, Gene. Yeah.
Thank you for your comments, Marcellus. Certainly appreciate that. I do have a few comments, but Josh, do you have anything you'd like to add before I move forward?
No, I don't. I do not at this time.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a couple of comments based on my opinion of this matter. We have 8 specific criteria as we've discussed, and number 1 is in question. We are discussing that. That seems to be the neighborhood and everyone's chief concern, including George on our board. Number 2 and I just bring this up because George brought it up, I do not believe that granting this proposed special exception could in any way have an adverse impact on the adjoining properties. And this is why. My reason is because, I mean, we're talking about a piece of property that is literally contiguous to Interstate 77. You're bounded on Interstate 77 on the east and Fort Jackson Boulevard, a very heavily traveled entranceway to our city, also an entranceway to Fort Jackson. So though that alone leads me to believe that a convenience store in this location would not have an adverse impact. I'm not saying that it's a quiet, traffic-free, very pristine area at all. My point is that adding a convenience store, in my opinion only, is not an adverse impact, would not have an adverse impact on this area. Regarding the traffic, that we have had a good debate, and that certainly is up for discussion. But I think all we have to go on, well, we don't have to require a traffic study in order to grant this special exception. There's times where they're helpful. They can help the applicants make their case, and it's very helpful, but we don't have to do that. So the best we had was SCDOT's district engineer come and testify before us on the record that he does not believe, and the department does not believe, that this proposed use would create a substantial increased amount of traffic that would be a detriment to the area. I believe that the Kings Grant Neighborhood Association and the residents, I believe their complaint is with the existing conditions. I think some of them have pointed out, and it's a fair point, that this may exacerbate the situation, but I think their complaint is an existing condition. And I simply say, with all due respect, your neighborhood is located beside an interstate. And it's a very nice neighborhood. I have friends who live there. It's right beside my office. But seriously, you are located immediately bordering an interstate. And when you drive up and down interstates in South Carolina at interchanges at major cities like this, what do you see? You see gas stations, almost every one. And I simply respectfully submit the fact that this is a good spot for a gas station. I mean, if you're not allowed to put a gas station here at the intersection of I-77 and Fort Jackson Boulevard, where is it appropriate? I mean, we're not talking about we did talk about one recently that you all remember near Harbison State Forest. It was a very different situation, bounded by some undeveloped wooded acreage, and we protected that area. I think I led the charge on that. But in this particular case, I would like to respectfully submit to the neighborhood that I do not believe that this would be any sort of a adverse impact on them. In fact, I think the opposite. I think many of the Kings Grant residents and the Fort Jackson soldiers and employees would find themselves stopping at this gas station often on their way to the site. So simply just like to sum it up that I do believe that they meet the specific criteria for this case.
Yeah,
so
I'd like to respond to that, if I can.
Please.
Just relative to criteria number 2, I don't have, that criteria specifically references adjoining properties. So I don't have I would not be making, and I'm not making the claim that this QT has an adverse impact on the area. But when we look at any special exception that has an immediate adjacency with a residential area or a house, in this case it does, there's a condominium that literally looks at this property. So it's not like it's the side of the building, the front of this building, which means a number of homeowners currently look out and they will see a QT in a place where it didn't exist before. So, and that QT has bright lights and there's lots of cars coming in and out, and there is an adjacency. So I just wanted to clarify that I'm not speaking about Kings Grant or the area. I'm speaking specifically about an adjacent residential building. And criteria 2 is very specific about referencing adjacent properties and environmental factors. And in my view, this will have a negative impact. If I owned one of those condominiums, I believe personally that I would see this as having an adverse impact on environmental factors such as light, noise, glare, vibrate, whatever, all of those things because of the adjacency to my property. So I just wanted to make that clear, just clarify that I'm not speaking about the area in general relative to criteria number 2.
I think that's a fair point. Thank you, George. Fair point. Okay. Anyone else on the board wish to speak on this matter? John, I see you're connecting. Are you trying to talk about anything?
Sorry, my home internet got disconnected on the phone.
Yeah, wanted to make sure before we move forward, you don't have any other comments, because I did see you were doing something.
What was that, Gene? I'm sorry.
Just wanted to make sure you didn't have any other comments before we move forward.
No, well, yeah, just kind of backing you up on what you said. I think this corridor has been like this for as long as I can remember, 30 something years in Columbia, and it's had speeding problems because it's a wide open road system. And I think having an attraction on the road for people to stop in, I think it'll slow people down rather than speed people up. And I just kind of agree with what you were saying. And that's it.
All right. Well, we've got 2 motions to vote on here. Correct, Rachel? We're going to take this in 2 motions, one for the gas station and one for the convenience store.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess we'll start with the gasoline service station. Certainly a good back and forth between the board members and lots of stuff to consider here. So at this point, I would like to ask for a motion regarding the special exception and pertains to the gasoline service station only.
Gene, I move to make a motion that we approve this special exception request for the gas station use of this property.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
This is Josh. I second the motion.
Okay, at this point, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
I'm going to call roll
Thank you.
just to be safe. All right, Mr. Dinkins,
Aye.
Mr. Primus,
No.
Mr. Speed,
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer,
No.
and Mr. Gregory.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes 3-2.
Okay. Our next motion to consider is, I'd like to ask for a motion, please, for whether or not to grant the special exception for the convenience store portion of the project.
Yeah, I'll move to make a motion that the board approve the special exception for a convenience store at this location.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Rachel, you want to just call roll this time?
Sure. Mr. Dinkins,
Aye.
Mr. Primus,
No.
Mr. Speed,
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer,
No.
and Mr. Gregory.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 3-2 with Ms. Stevens recused. All right. We have one more case on the agenda. All right, we have case 2020 -0031 is a special exception for 930 Grayson Road. This is a special exception to establish an automotive towing service. I believe the applicant is on the line. He is welcome to begin his presentation when he's ready. Are you on here, Mr. Fuller?
He looks muted.
Yeah, it's not letting me unmute him. Just says ask to unmute. Let's see. Can you unmute yourself, Mr. Fuller? Well, interesting.
Yeah.
So I had forwarded you all while we wait to see if he can get himself unmuted. I forwarded you all just the addendum he sent today. I believe that was pretty much his presentation. Let me find it here. I'll just, if it's all right with you, Jean, I'll go ahead and just read into the record the addendum he provided to just cover some of the basis for the request.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I hate the fact that I feel like he may be on and we can't hear from him.
Yeah, I see him on here, but he just, it won't give me the option to unmute him myself. I can only ask, I can only send a request.
Maybe he stepped away for just a moment, and as you start, maybe he'll come back and we can get some money from it.
So, all right. So this is supplementary to the criteria paragraphs 1 through 8 of the application. Grayson Road is essentially the frontage road for I-126 at this point. It is a commercial use district with the, hold on, there's people in the waiting room. Oh, it's just John. Sorry. With both destination and pass-by traffic. There are no sidewalks or bike paths anywhere nearby. There's virtually no pedestrian traffic at or near the site. The site is situated above the grade level of the road with wide frontage and excellent visibility and access, ingress and egress. There are no immediately adjacent use activities or approximately located driveways on Grayson Road. Good visibility all directions at driveway entrance to the property. There are no adjoining properties currently in use. The applicant will own control of the adjacent property to the west, approximately 1 acre, which is not included in this special exception application, and there are no plans for development. The towing service is itself a low impact use on the site and no proximate neighbors to be affected. Number 3, the towing service will be housed in a new construction facility meeting all code requirements. The lot is much larger than the expected business volume requires. Plus, the applicant will own the adjacent property. Applicant's major business, Carolina Paint and Body, is located a block away in a well-constructed brick-appointed building that is both attractive and well-maintained. So will be the towing service improvements. There's nothing about the towing service business that is inherently detrimental to any other proximate uses. This operator has a long record of business service in the community with no history of nuisance or problematic practices or property use. There's no concentration of similar businesses in the vicinity. It is a general commercial district with a wide variety of uses. A primary factor in the applicant's request for this location is its close proximity to parent company and applicant's familiarity with the neighborhood. The location, or item number 6, the location is and has been good has been for a good many years commercial, and its proximity exposure to the major interstate highway has assured a wide variety of uses that are complementary to the character of the area. Item number 7, City of Columbia has just recently annexed adjacent properties with continuation of general commercial zoning. Item number 8, there's no reasonable expectation that the requested use would adversely impact the area or adversely affect the public interest. The use will immediately put in place a new viable local small business that is compatible with the area and will create new jobs and add tax base value to the overall community. Robert Fuller, attorney for the applicant.
Okay. Well, ordinarily we would ask questions of the applicant at this point, but without the applicant present, of course, we can't do that. Rachel, any guidance here?
We could see if there's any public input and go
Yeah,
from there.
Certainly, maybe then give them a chance.
Yeah. Erica, are there any public input? People waiting?
No, there's no one on the line and no comments.
Okay. So, because I do want to state, the only reason I put this on the regular agenda is we had gotten just a couple calls with general questions. It wasn't really for or against, so I did it just to be safe, but it doesn't appear that anyone has called in support or opposition to the request.
Okay, well, I guess at this point, then we will move into board discussion. Board? Comments?
Let me see if I can get him on the phone.
Okay, thank you. Maybe that would be more appropriate.
Yeah, hold on one second, okay? Okay, so I have him on the phone. I'm going to put him on speakerphone and see if you all can hear him if you want to ask him questions.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, can you speak? Let us see if we can hear you, Mr. Fuller.
I can see and hear you very well. I apologize that I don't have the technical ability to get to you.
Well, that's okay. We can hear you, or at least I can hear you. Thank you for joining us. Rachel sort of summarized your application. It's like it was very well put together as always. Do any members of the board have any questions for Mr. Fuller, attorney for the applicant?
No.
Okay, must have been put together well if we don't have any questions. So anyway, okay, well, with Mr. Fuller on the line then, We don't have any public input and we don't have any questions. So is there any board discussion regarding this matter?
Gene, I think it was, the application's put together well, and I think the use makes sense. Zoning is good. It's in line with the area. Yeah, I can't see any reason for the criteria why we would not approve this. Just my 2 cents.
Okay, anyone else? Jenna, we hadn't had a chance to hear from you today because I know you were accused last case, but you have anything to add regarding this one?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm back. No, I thought it was, the application was thorough and straightforward, and I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. George, you and Josh, anything?
No, I'm good.
Nothing on my end, Gene.
Okay, all right. Well, seems pretty straightforward then. Well, at this point, I would like to ask for a motion regarding the special exception for the property at 930 Grayson Road.
I move to approve the special exception.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Can we add to that just with any staff comments as well?
Yes. Subject to staff comments.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I heard Marcella second.
Yes, second.
All right, well, I think we can probably just do a verbal call here. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, pretty straightforward.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Okay.
He said thank you.
All right.
So, all right. Well, there is no other business on the agenda.
Okay.
So you're welcome to do a motion to adjourn.
Let's get a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay.
All right. Well, everyone have a safe and happy 4th of July.
Thank you.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you. You too.
A socially distant 4th of July.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
See you, everybody.
See y'all next
Okay.
month.
Thank you.
Have
Bye-bye.
a great weekend. We'll see you.
You too. See
Thank
you
you,
later.
guys. Have a good holiday.
You too. See you.